welcome to the Woods. I believe this is episode 8, which I can't believe I've done 8 episodes and people seem to like them, Ivan. I'm not sure what's going on here, but the whole COVID thing must have us all going a little bit crazy if we're enjoying watching me do these kinds of things. But today on the show, I'm really excited to have Ivan on. Now, Ivan Crossman and we've never crossed paths before, but we have a lot of friends in common, I guess, is what you would say. And because I follow along the band's Facebook page religiously, I love to see what everybody is doing. I noticed that you had put 2 bucks in the ground this year with the bow. And later, as I was reading through the comments, they were both in Chignecto. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, both were.
So that fascinates me to see somebody filling both tags with bucks. I think that's fantastic. It's a great success story. And to do it in Chignecto, tell us a little bit about your history bow hunting and in Chignecto, and then please share with us the story of these 2 bucks. How did that come to be?
Well, I started bow hunting in there in 91. I took my course in August, and I never got a deer that year until the very last day. I just pounded it out and stuck with it.
Right.
And the last day, I was lucky and I got a 7-point buck. So that's it. I'm hooked. I've taken the rifle out maybe twice, but all I find myself doing is looking for a place to hang a tree stand.
Right. you got something going on?
Something bumped here and we disappeared. So anyway, when I lug a rifle around and look for a place to hang a tree stand, so I haven't touched the rifle since.
Okay.
And I've only bow hunted Chignecto because I live 30K away. Right. Well, it's only a half-hour drive and I'm there, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was pretty blessed this year to have 2 exciting hunts.
Right. So how did that? So I mean, you're saying looking to hang a stand. So when you're in Chignecto, how do you set up in Chignecto? Do you have particular areas that you like in particular? Do you use a stand at all? How did you set up this year?
Well, I usually hang 2 stands. One in case the bears hit, which I think I've lost 3 cameras to date so far.
Yeah.
They all pound them every time. You know that.
I do.
But I do a lot of scouting, a lot of boots on the ground. I walk a lot and check. And about August, I'll start hanging the odd trail camera out and kind of see where things traveling and look for some sign from last year and, the normal stuff most guys would look for.
Yeah.
So when I find a spot, then I pretty much stick to it and try to get a deer pattern. Right. Now, I was lucky this year because there was 3 does come in real quick and I didn't have the bear problem I normally do.
Right.
So I just stayed there, set whenever the wind was right. Then I'll go to the other stand if I have a bad wind,
Right. So you will often set up for, say, like a north or a south wind, or how do you set up the 2 stands usually? Yeah.
Yeah. The main road usually runs east and west. So you can set up on one side or the other, and then you're pretty good for which way the wind blows.
Right. Yeah.
So I usually have one on, say, the south side and one on the north side or whatever road I'm on.
Right. Okay. All right. So when you're doing that, do you happen to use any mineral or apples, anything like that? And I'm pretty sure that you are allowed to use apples in again.
Yeah. You can bait for deer in there, but you can't bait for bear.
Right. That's it.
Chignecto. But there is 2 areas that you can bait for bear. One is way over off the Sparks Brook, and the other one is way back at the end, close to the end of the Goodwin Road.
Oh, okay.
That it's not designated Kelly River wilderness area. It's right. The old, you can bait there, but there's very, very few guys bear hunt. I wish there was more. But.
Yeah. Well, we've been having that discussion for a long time about trying to spring bear hunt, obviously, to see if we can't ignite a few guys that in the fall we're so busy hunting deer. I mean, if you've got a job 9 to 5, you really don't have time to do both. So it is a shame. All right, so you spots. You've got great does coming in. And
yeah, in one spot, there was nothing, but you still got to go in. You got to check your camera. And like I said, I'm lucky, you know, I'm only a half hour away.
right,
Which makes it great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you start hunting right away in September, or when do you usually start hunting your stands?
No, I usually don't start till October.
Okay.
So when I get my cameras out, and this year, it's just one of them spots that, you know, there's some buck sign and you can see some old rubs and stuff. But I wasn't getting any pictures of bucks on the cameras.
Right.
And with 3 does coming in, you know, there has to be one. So I thought, well, there's one here. I know it. You can just feel it, you know. So I put another camera way off, just on a trail, just like a satellite camera. Yeah. Bingo. I found them. Right. So I just, when the wind was right, I would sit there, and I had a picture of the first one at 6 o'clock the morning before.
Okay.
So when I go in the morning, I pull my cart and climb up in the stand, and I'll check it there with a little camera. And so I hunted there till 11:30. Not a thing that day. Nothing. So I come out, had a quick lunch. I said, well, I'm going to hang tough. So I headed back in, got up in there, and I sat there, and then seen a little spike horn walk through, but he never came in front of the camera or to the few apples I had out, and crossed a little brook and went up into a thicket.
Right.
And then about 10 after 4, I looked, and I could see the horns coming up. I said, oh boy, here he is. So he came up, yeah, you get pumped. Yeah. And he come up and he would stop, and he was taking his good old time. And I'm kind of glancing at the watch. Come on, buddy. We got to get this done. And he finally he came right in, perfect broadside shot, which I'm pretty picky on that because I only shoot 53 pounds.
Right.
And he turned broadside, and well, I had to wait a few minutes because, you know, your old heart's beating, trying to break your ribs from the inside out. So I got myself calmed down, and I made a great shot. It was perfect double lung pass through. And he made a couple of hops, and then he walked and flickered his tail, and that was it. It was over. He only went 40 yards.
Wow. So you could watch him drop.
Yeah, I seen that one drop. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the 8-pointer.
Okay. So now that guy, he came right in. Was he going to be snacking, or was he on a doe path? Like, was he sniffing a doe? Do you know?
Well, there was a good trail there that the does would come up on, and I put out maybe a D-handled bag of apples, not a lot. Yep. If you put a lot, the bears are going to get them. That's for sure.
I feel exactly the same way, and I do pretty much the same thing. I only like to try and put out enough to try and get them to stop and investigate rather than full on feed. So I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, because the bears can be such a horrible problem. Yeah. So he comes in. Now, how high do you usually set up the stand?
I don't go high, somewhere between 16 and 18 feet.
Okay. A little higher than me, but that's not unreasonable. Yeah. And then how far out of shot would he have been?
He was 24 yards, that one.
24 yards. Oh, that's a nice shot. That's a nice shot, especially with the compound.
And perfect broadside.
Yeah.
Once you calm yourself down.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think about my bear hunts. I'm the same way. I make myself, I will not take a shot at a bear until they've pulled all of the logs out of the barrel. They've had something to eat. And it's not because I'm waiting for them to be calmed down. I do it because if I have that plan, hopefully I'll learn, I'll start breathing again before I take the shot. So, but deer don't give us that luxury. You got a little bit of time before, and that's if you're lucky and they give you that broadside quartering away. So it seems like it worked out well.
That was textbook. That was.
Yeah. Now, what did he dress out to? Do you know?
I never weighed him, but I would guess his weight maybe 175, 180.
Okay. And would that have been rut, or what you say? It was in October?
No, that was November 17th.
Oh, right in the rut.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So he hadn't been on camera then, I think you said the day before or that morning?
Yeah. Just one morning is the only pictures I ever got of him.
Wow.
but I had a feeling he was around there.
Yeah. And then so he must have been walking the doe trail then. Like,
Oh, he had to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was sniffing nose down. So, oh man, that is
Yeah.
fantastic. So, any idea what
Now,
he scored? I remember the picture, but what would he have scored?
yeah, I don't score them. He had 8 points. He was a nice rack.
Yeah, no, he was a fantastic rack. Okay. Anything else about that deer that was interesting? I mean, if there's a new bow hunter, and I like the idea of trying when I'm speaking to experienced bow hunters to try to get that information out there, because you know, new to bow hunting, you remember what it was like. You know, you're flying by the seat of your pants half the time. In this particular case, what do you think was the success thing for you under these circumstances? What was the big one for?
Patience is always a big one for any bow hunter, but I think don't forget your old school bow hunting things. Check for your tracks, your droppings, your rubs. Because like I said, I was only got that one picture of them.
Right.
And that picture I had of the other buck on a satellite camera that I stuck down on the trail. That was only a little 6-pointer.
Oh.
And I had him come in maybe 5 days before this one. And I thought for sure he was coming in on a trail, and he had his head down and he was just working it and smelling it. And he just like coming in on a string, and he got within 35 yards and he stopped. I thought, what did I do? I'm not moving.
Yeah.
Did he win me? No, there's no win. And he took a complete 90 degree. So he was on the doe trail and he went, never seen him again.
See him again. Oh man. All right.
So next year I'll be looking for him.
That's right. Absolutely. So, I mean, it sounds like you're like at a bit of a crossroads. There's a couple of trails that must come through this area.
There's 3. One comes up along a little trickle of a brook, and then another one will bisect it. So, and just by luck, I found that boots on the ground walking.
Yeah. And that I
do a lot of stuff in the spring too.
So this, I don't know if you, I mean, on Facebook today on the Bow Hunters Association Facebook page, I just put a little something on there for the new bow hunters, hoping to get the experienced guys to, you know, give some examples of why winter and spring scouting is so important. And, you know, I was going over winter and spring, you know, there's no foliage, there's no tall grass. If the snow isn't down, you know, man, you can see a long way and see things that you wouldn't have seen passing 10 feet from it sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is important to get in there and do that scouting preseason, postseason, you know, understand your deer, like you say, old school, like, don't depend on your bait.
You have to get the boots on the ground. And if you can find trails and rubs and old scrapes and stuff, you probably found a pretty good spot.
I agree. And I love those, the game trails when you get like a crossroads or a merge where the trails kind of come together, especially during the rut. I mean, you know, the bucks are a slightly different animal pre-rut, post-rut, certainly. But nonetheless, you know, when you got the more deer you have in any one particular spot, the better chance you're going to have as a bow hunter, obviously, to get close. So, all right. Yeah. Well, all right. So that was November. I'm sorry, what did you say it was again? November
17th.
17th. So, all right, so tag him. I'm assuming you used the general tag on him, expecting that you might get that extra week. So, when after you got him, when were you back in the woods?
Probably 2 days.
Okay.
Because my butcher is right close. He's only maybe 12 miles away.
Right.
It's just a matter of calling him and skinning it and taking it up, and he puts it right in the cooler.
Right.
And then I'm right back in the woods.
Well, that's ideal. I mean, you're still coming, you're still full blown rut. So, I mean, that is the time to be in the woods, no denying, especially with the bow, right? Because it does help when they're a little bit stupid and moving, right? Instead of just sitting.
And they were just starting to move.
Yeah. So did you, and I've talked to a couple of guys. I know that I had a very interesting season because I felt like it was so warm that the bucks just didn't seem to want to move during the day. You know, you're saying you weren't getting photos. So, you got that buck that you'd never seen before on November 17th. You're going back in because you're probably, I'm assuming, you correct me, but I'm assuming you're like, the bucks are up and moving. If I'm not in a tree, I'm not going to shoot one, because they're only going to make the one mistake this year.
Absolutely. And it was like everything was a week and a half later than normal.
Yeah. Well, again, because it was so warm,
Yeah.
If we didn't have camera in the woods, I'm not sure too many guys would have seen deer or known that they were there. It was just a weird season. All right. So we're back in the woods, 2 or 3 days later. Are you sitting in the same stand?
The same stand. Now, at the other stand I had, I went and checked, and it was starting to pick up there a little bit. There was a big 8-pointer coming in there, but he was smart. He was so smart. And I ruined that. I said, I'm going to go in early. So I went in at 2:30, sneaking down, and we meet 50 yards apart at the same time. And I see this big tail. I said, there. I blew that for this year. So I said, I'm staying out of here.
What time of day was that?
What day?
What time of day?
2:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
He was coming in, and I was going to my stand, and we met.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah. And I'm sneaking in because I know he's there. I've got pictures of him now for the last, on and off, maybe a week.
Right.
And he was come maybe a 2-day, maybe a 4-day cycle. So we'll average 3 days.
Yeah.
So once we met, I said, that's it. No sense me coming back here for 3 days.
Yeah.
So I stayed out 3 days. No, he's not there. But the 4th day came back.
Ooh.
But he was smart. He changed his time, and he was a nighttime deer now. I never seen him the rest of the year. Educate them, you know what happens.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we use the terminology educate, right? We can educate our deer. I mean, whether or not you believe they remember, but their instincts are so strong that I think their instincts are definitely twice as good as our intelligence most of the time. So you do. Once you bump them, it can be really tough. All right, so you bumped him. I'm kind of looking at timeline. You're saying about a week. Is this about a week after you got the first one?
Yeah, maybe 5 days, 6 days.
Okay. All right. So bumped him. Now you're thinking, I'm probably going to hunt the other stand or go back. Yeah. Okay.
Because there was deer coming there regular.
Okay. All right. So run us down that. Run us down. You're going
back to the first stand where I got the 8-pointer, and there was a 5-pointer coming in. And this morning there was a little bit of drizzle coming down, and he came in from the same direction on my left, which is great. I'm a right-hand shooter.
Right.
So when he came in, and there's a couple of trees there, and he stopped, and he's looking out. I like to hunt where there's a little edge, and he's looking out on that little edge. Yep. And the sun is shining, and it's just one of them days that makes a memory you'll never forget. And he shook the rain off. And when that went through the air, it was just like diamonds. And I'll never forget that. Oh. And he looked, he did his thing, whatever he does. And he turned around and went right back. Oh. Never had an open shot on him or nothing. And so he's still there. I hope, if he makes a winner.
That's right. All right. So that's it. I mean, I love that you shared that, because, I mean, isn't it incredible that those types of experiences, I really think that, I know that as a bow hunter myself, and I only bow hunt similar to you. I don't even have a pal, to be honest. So I couldn't go rifle hunting if I wanted to, but it's one of those things that we hunt those experiences. I think, you have to take those encounters as wins, or it's really hard to stay motivated as a bow hunter. Because that's the experience you're going to get quite a bit more often than the opportunity to arrow a deer. And I'm so happy you shared that story. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's a great memory. And to see that's just as good as harvesting a buck. I
disagree. I don't.
Yeah. So I kept sitting there on and off, and 2:30 a doe would come in, and then she would wander away, and they're not eating great because there's all kinds of stuff in the woods.
That's right.
And I think they're getting smart to apples too. They know enough.
There's a lot of guys out there saying that
Yeah.
that once apples or apple piles make their way into the woods, deer in the area get more skittish. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so much land that I can't speak for everybody, but that's certainly part of a conversation that you hear. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could be, because they learn quick.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't, they're not going to make it.
This is it again.
Yeah.
I speak to their instinct again. They're not necessarily doing algebra, to try and figure out where the hunter is, but they've got that instinct, and if it's not right, they got to mosey on or not propagate the species. So it's a pretty simple formula for them. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So you're going back in. How many days after you had the Mr. 5-point shake?
Oh, days. I really can't remember. I think when I shot the last one, it was on the 4th. So that's a span between the 17th and the 4th.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
hunt whenever I can, whatever days I can get in the woods. I'm in there and sitting in the stand, starting to get a little cold. And I'm really starting to like that because I like the cold weather a bit. I didn't think I did, but keeps the deer moving pretty good.
I agree. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and a little 5-pointer comes in and he walks around, but I had a bad wind that day and he stayed way out. And you could see him trying to win me. And he couldn't get enough to spook him, but not enough to get into 30 yards is maximum for me. And I want them closer. It has to be an ideal textbook shot at 30. But he never came in, so he went away. And he came back maybe twice after that. But they're just crossing back and forth now, and they're starting to move pretty good.
Yeah.
So after that, the next day I went in and set, and I never even got my bow pulled up off the ground. Another 2:30 thing. And it's still there, and I look, and here's that doe coming in, and she was coming right to the apple. She was hungry. And she didn't even stop. She went right in, and I got my bow up and got it hung up anyway, without spooking her. But she only ate about 6 apples, and away she went.
Yeah.
So that was a good day. The next day I think was pretty slow. And now we got to be getting up close to, the other the 6-pointer, the last one I got, he came in and he did this little circle thing and he was looking around and peeking, and no, he wasn't coming in today. So I don't know if he hit a doe trail or scent, but he wandered out. And then the next morning I got in the stand and I wasn't there 45 minutes. He came right in from behind me. He's 10 yards right there by the tree, and he goes right out, and he stops 10 yards from the apples. So, and he's looking around. So I get the bow down because today's the day, and he turns and he starts going back out, and he comes to roughly 20, 21 yards, and he's still walking. So I give a little bit, and that's it. He stops, and I got to get the bow drawn, and everything in slow motion, that, and he's still there. So I buried the pin and another one. Perfect double lung. But he ran way off to my left into a bunch of thick stuff. I didn't see him fall, but I don't hear real good these days, but I thought I heard a crash.
Right.
So I just left him I always wait a half hour, 45 minutes, go back to the truck and peel off some clothes and have a coffee and come back in, start trailing him. And he only went about 65, maybe 70 yards. Okay. But he went further than the big one did.
Right. Yeah. So what time of day was that you ended up burying the pin?
Then after 8 in the morning.
Oh, okay. So that was a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you got one in the evening or later in the day, and then the second
quarter after 4:30.
Okay. And then the second one was that morning buck. Okay. Man,
yeah.
You experienced it all this year. I mean,
I was blessed. I had a great year.
I mean, that's what we're all working for. I mean, you had bucks that you had seen on camera, but not necessarily get a shot at. You had, a decent size, mature buck coming, right on a line after a doe, and then you had the wonderful sort of, 230 bump in and that sort of, that experience. And then some more doe and a sunny day with a shake.
That was, yeah.
And then to finish off the end of the season, an absolutely fantastic second freezer buck. I mean, without a doubt, that's the season that it's all-star. It's all-star.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. Now, I don't know if I'll ever be able to repeat that, but I'm going to try. And even if I don't harvest one, just being in there with them, seeing what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that Chignecto, because it's close to you, right? That it provides you such a great opportunity. Now, for new bow hunters or perhaps even bow hunters from away. I mean, whether you're in Cape Breton, Yarmouth, you may have heard of Chignecto, but they not everybody necessarily knows. And I don't expect you to give me the full blown, history of it, of course, Ivan, but I mean, the season is the season. You can go in there the second Monday of September, right? To start hunting. You go all the way until that last week, that last week that's in December. So, I mean, you've got the full season. It's bow only. And because it's bow only, there's no need to wear orange, is there, any time of season?
No orange at all. No orange. Full face paint. You can do the whole thing.
Right. Right. So if on and I should have looked this up before. You may know. What are we looking at as far as acres or hectares? Do you know how big an area that is? Do you remember offhand?
It used to be 85 square miles, okay. 220 square kilometers.
Okay.
So it's a pretty big area.
Yeah. Now the roads are starting to get. I mean, they've made some changes, and because of new legislation, they've stopped maintaining certain roads. Do you like that? Do you find that advantageous or? No?
Oh, it was a lot better years ago.
Yeah.
You had so much more access.
Right.
And some of the roads we have access to, you can only go halfway up them.
Right. Now,
but
if
you have a four-wheeler, they have a trail that they have more trails to use than we do.
Right.
We only have like 2.5 roads, and they have, I don't know, they can do a full loop is what I like. I wish we could do.
Right.
Right around. But.
Now that's likely one of the Atvans clubs that probably maintains and does that, do they?
Yeah. It would be the ATV of Nova Scotia, whatever, all-terrain vehicles.
Yeah.
And
vehicle or Association of Nova Scotia. That's it. Yeah. So
and the snowmobilers are in conjunction.
Oh, right. Of course. SANS. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So there is some opportunity for people that are potentially interested coming from away to try Chignecto. And it is there. I mean, it was set up. We had Perry on here talking about, the first time there was only like 40 bow hunters and it was 10 days. And, and it's changed over the years and adapted. Because there was at one time a hyperabundance, I believe is probably the word that is nowadays to talk about the number of deer that were in Chignecto. But then there were some hard winters. There's a few things happened and there was a decline, which was bound to happen. That's nature, of course. How do you feel the numbers are in Chignecto now as far as deer compared to years past?
Deer numbers are down compared to what they used to be.
Right. But is there an incline at all? Is it starting to grow at all?
I think this year they were up just slightly.
Okay. That's good to know.
But the thing I'm only seeing, if I see a doe, she only has one calf.
Oh.
Before I used to see them with twins,
right.
The odd time a triplet, but
right.
Only one now.
Hmm, that's interesting and I would say that a lot of people elsewhere are seeing a lot of multiples, twos and threes,
Yeah.
fawns and for each doe. Now, not always, obviously, but I mean, even this year, my goodness, I saw multiple. I thought 3 cubs with a sow this year, and you get pictures of sows with 4, if not that occasional 5th one. I mean, that was unseen, unheard of at one, not unheard of. I should be careful, but it wasn't very common. So as far as what you've been seeing, it's more the sort of only one, and in years past, it's been more. Would you say bear numbers are up in Chignecto?
Oh, big time. Big time.
Okay. So in your opinion, having spent a lot of time in Chignecto, do you think there could be a correlation between number of bears and potentially fawn predation, or?
Without a doubt, I would say. Yeah. I've got no research to back it up, but you can jump in your truck and go for a drive, and I seen 6 bear in one night in a half-hour drive.
Yeah, and up there, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, there's a number of blueberry fields to boot all around Chignecto. Fairly close. Nothing for deer and bear to be, being able to jump back and forth for the most part. You would think that that's a possibility. And again, I'm so pro spring bear that I try to be careful. I want to, like everywhere else in Canada, I would love to see a spring bear hunt, because that's the rut for bears. It makes more sense from my perspective. But there's a bias there. I don't deny it. I'm a hunter, and I would prefer to hunt bear in the spring. But that being said, we certainly know that if bear numbers are up too high, even if they're low, there's still some fawn predation, and not only for deer, but for endangered mainland moose too, right? So, I mean, there is a good ethical and conservation-minded argument for making sure we keep bear numbers at a respectable level. Certainly doing nothing to drop them, too low. We don't want to do that either. But, I'm trying to remember now. I better not. If I say a number, I might be wrong as far as the number of bears that we take as hunters every year. It's really not that high a number. It's really not. And I think that adding a spring hunt, it'll create more bear hunters.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So if you have apples, if you have a few apples out, what's the sort of definition of baiting bear, out of curiosity? Yeah. I have you ever taken a bear in Chignecto yourself?
I have, when we could bait them before.
Right. Yeah. Okay. When there was the opportunity to bait. Okay.
Yeah. Before it became a wilderness area.
Right.
I actually used to hunt them.
Okay.
Every fall.
Right. Okay. So that was kind of wondering, like, if I've got apples out and a bear comes to my apples, is that just
you got the bear tag, fill it.
And I would think so, because you're not baiting bears. You're not doing it, with a barrel and, say with grease and scraps and that kind of thing. So I would assume, I mean, I probably check it out before I did it, but yeah.
Well, I asked the warden in there, and he really couldn't give me a definite answer.
Right. Well, that only scares me even more.
Yeah.
So, but I'll probably get that checked out. I'll make a phone call and see if I can't actually get an absolute on that. I'm sure that there are bow hunters out there that already know the answer to this question, and we'll probably get some comments on it as far as, spoke to and we got it clarified. So we'll probably get an answer shortly, even before I make a phone call at some point. So that's the nice thing about having so many experienced bow hunters, kind of following along and enjoying it, because there is a lot. All right. So if you had like myself, let's use myself. let's not use the word too experienced, but, you know, certainly have taken deer and bear and hunted with a bow long enough. You know, if a newer person is interested in going up, number one, you would suggest trying to get boots on the ground sometime preseason. You got to know the lay of the land. There's really not a lot of reason to just go out, throw a bag of apples out and hope. It could happen for a hunter. I mean, you know, stranger things happen.
And that'll be the biggest buck ever. Yeah. You know, for a first-time guy, it always seems to be.
Exactly. All right. Hunting has changed a little bit since perhaps the Mecca days, when Chignecto first opened. Perry and I spoke to this a little bit. You know, stands and whether you use apples or not, you know, stands do seem, you know, they've changed the way we hunt. It gets us up, it gets us better line of sight. It gets us, you know, a great sort of downward shot at animals that get inside our range. You know, are there many guys up there stalking as much as once were, or?
Occasionally, you'll see some guys going for a walk, but
well,
I'm not sure if they harvest any or not. I'm sure they do.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, and again, that's the reason stands are popular, is because it does seem to give a higher percentage success rate for harvest, right? And so, yeah. You know, that's certainly. But so, guys are still walking through the woods. They got no orange on. That's the lovely thing about bows. It's that you're not taking a shot, you know, out at 100, 200 potentially. This is you can hear a guy breathing. You know, there's really nothing to worry about that way.
No, it's very, very safe.
Yeah. So I think, you know, I think the idea of even if you have a day during season where you might be able to go for a walk, you get to do scouting and you're hunting. You really are. And yep. Every day you spend in Chignecto is an experience in itself, and one that the next time you go, you get to build on until you start to kind of really build a map in your head and how the deer are moving. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm a little bit upset at myself for not having taken advantage of going to Chignecto yet. You know, I've got my trailer this year. We got a trailer in 2020. So the idea of being able to go up and spend a couple of nights in the spring and do some scouting, and then kind of be able to hang some stands in August for another couple of days, enjoy my time. I'm looking forward to it. I'm whether I'm successful or not, the idea that, you know, I'm hunting the lands that Bruce Scott and Joyce used to go to, and you know, Wayne Sullivan and Donnie Matheson, and you know, to just know that I'm kind of walking some of the trails essentially that some of these guys that have been around a long time, Roy Nicholas. I mean, that's just it just gets me jonesing, you know. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Ivan. You know what?
It's a must do. You have to do it. And you mentioned Bruce. Even in his later years, he would come up and stop and have a big yarn with us and talk there. His wife would drive him up. It was wonderful.
An absolutely incredible man, and probably someone who doesn't get spoken enough as much as once was for new bow hunters. If you guys don't know who Bruce Scott is, I mean, we call him the father of bow hunting in Nova Scotia. I mean, that's you know, that's how
well deserved.
That's 100%. I agree. I did once upon a time. The Facebook page is still up. When he passed away, I did a little Facebook page on his sort of for memories, so people could share memories. There's lots of photos in that, but beyond that, I'm not sure. He did have some videos out once upon a time. That might be something I'll have to do some research on to see if we can have those videos uploaded somehow. You know, copyright infringement, got to be careful, but some of those old videos, if we could share them, I think the bow hunting community would love to see those. You're giving me lots of good ideas, Ivan. Like, look at how this goes. Very fluid. All right. Well, other than that, I know we've kind of, spoke our bit. We've kind of got lots of time in now. And any last things, as far as Chignecto, might share with a new hunter? Me alone, even if it's just me. What, any little helpful hints?
Well, I think for one, every bow hunter should give it a shot. The full camo, no orange, it's quiet. If you hear a rifle shot, it's miles away.
Right.
It's always going to be as other bow hunters, and they're so helpful. If you need help, the guys will stop and they'll help you drag your deer. And
yeah,
it's just a great bunch of guys, and it's a great experience.
It's the community within the community, isn't it? I mean, it really is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Ivan, that was fantastic. I knew that once I saw your photos, I needed to have a conversation with you. I'm so glad that I did, and I'm so glad that you accepted to share your story and some of the history that you've had in Chignecto. Let's not make this the last time you and I speak. I hope we do get an opportunity to meet up and shake hands and walk the woods together sometime very, very soon. That would be lovely.
For sure.
Wonderful. Ivan,
come on up. We'll do it.
All right. That's what I like to hear. All right, guys. So be sure to do a little research on Chignecto and what Chignecto is to bow hunters in Nova Scotia. Lots of information on the DLF, Department of Lands and Forestry website and within the books to kind of go over the rules and regulations. And if you got questions, maybe reach out via the bands, the Bow Hunter Association of Nova Scotia Facebook page, and ask questions if it's something that you're interested in. There are lots of guys, not just Ivan, that continue to hunt up in that region, and lots of great information. Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate it.
Enjoyed it.
Well, I'm not sure what to say. I'm sitting here, went upstairs and got a snack and came back down, and I'm just kind of processing the wonderful conversation that I just had with Ivan. I've never spoken to Ivan before, and so that was the first time we had seen each other face to face, or even had actual audio between the two of us. We had connected Facebook Messenger and that kind of stuff, and I just so very much wanted, once I saw that he had been successful and for the first time managed to double tag 2 bucks in the same year, and then on top of that it was inside Chignecto, it screamed a story that I wanted to hear, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I know that I did. That's the campfire story that I guess a lot of us talk about, being able to share those success stories in our community is something, not just education, but I mean, even within that story, there's a lot of things that all of us can learn and remember, and then I guess also empathize with those of us that have gone in to a stand in the afternoon thinking we were okay, but ended up bumping the big buck. Like there's so much to that season that was just like I said, I think during the video, that was an all-star season. I mean, everything that you could kind of go ups and downs of hunting seemed to happen to Ivan in 2020 in the season. So thank you, Ivan, so much for sharing your story. Now, very quickly, Ivan, after the show, like we stopped recording, and then I just kind of got to know Ivan a little bit better, and he's invited me up to go for a walk in Chignecto with him because he knows that I'm interested in hunting there this season. So, I'm going to take advantage of that, no doubt about it. But he was sharing the story with me. He was in a ladder stand in Chignecto. And this is just one of those things that, I couldn't get it back on. He had told the story, I didn't know that's where it was going. I would have loved to have gotten it on video for you guys, but let me kind of break it down and summarize what happened to Ivan. He was in a ladder stand, end of the night. I think he had seen a doe or something like that earlier in the day, and he said, okay, well, it's getting dark, better get down. And he lowers his bow down on the cord, and he's still up in the stand, But as he turns around to kind of go down the ladder, he sees a large object, a deer, a bear, he's not entirely sure. And then he kind of realizes what it is, and it's a moose. And it's coming beeline straight for him. And he had just, maybe half hour or so before dark, had let out it was a very windy day. He let out a great huge grunt, see if he could maybe attract a buck to come in, investigate the sound. He's not sure if that's what brought the moose in. But regardless, the moose came right to his tree. He remembered thinking to himself, my goodness, he's already let his bow down. I hope the moose doesn't step on my bow. Well, that moose comes right in, and the line that's holding his bow, is, put his bow down, it's rubbing its nose and sniffing the string. Oh, one thing leads to another. As the moose goes, to leave, kind of wraps around, and it catches one of the points on its rack. It's a large male, and it catches in the antlers. And when he moves, the bow rubs along the ground and makes a noise. It spooks the moose. The moose whips its head around. The bow goes flying through the air, lands on the ground. The moose takes off. He busts 2 of the carbon arrows that were in the quiver, and the sight gets destroyed. Shit. Oh, anyway. I shouldn't have had a snack. So anyway, he gets down. He gets the bow. This is just one of those stories that, you're sitting around the campfire and you're wondering how much of it is real, how much of it is made. Let me tell you, when he was telling this story, this is something that happened. So, when you are bow hunting, these are some of the things that I guess can happen. And these are the stories I think we all hunt for. And we get to tell those over and over again to our buddies. And I'm so very happy that Ivan shared that story with me, and now I'm sharing it with you. I'm sure there was more detail in his story than mine, but if you ever bump into Ivan, ask him to tell you the story, because he tells it so much better than I. But Ivan, thank you very much for sharing all of your stories with me, especially the one that we recorded and shared with everybody tonight. Congratulations on an all-star season, and I look forward to meeting up with you and seeing if I can't make some of my own memories in Chignecto. And I hope that all of you out there that perhaps have never been to Chignecto, maybe think about it as well, and maybe start thinking about what's the word I'm looking for here? A pilgrimage to the the center of bow hunting in Nova Scotia and Chignecto. So, cheers everyone. See y'all soon. To the woods.